नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नश्टकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपाकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चाता देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौ भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. We welcome everyone for today's morning Bhagavatam class. We are reading from 4th canto, 28th chapter, titled as Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. So who is Puranjana? Puranjana refers to us, a living entity who has been caught up in the city of nine gates. Just like Puranjana had a queen, we also have a queen, and that refers to material intelligence. And Puranjana refers to our story being caught up in this material world. Now, in this 28th chapter, his final days are described. As a very beautiful description here. I should not call it beautiful. It is not beautiful as per beautiful. The word we understand beautiful has a positive connotation. It's a scary description, but the description is beautiful, eye-opening. So today we're going to do it a little differently. I'll reflect on a few lessons, which I want you to write it down when I say those lessons. And then we'll talk about how we can prepare ourselves. So once again, I believe everyone has got this point. Puranjana here or Narad Muni is Prachini Bharishat, but in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, it also refers to us. So we are representing Puranjana, Puranjana representing us. His queen represents his material intelligence. The kingdom of which he's so proud of refers to this city of nine gates. So now, Puranjana have lived his life, a conditioned life, which everyone lives in this world by default life, uh, being attached to I and mine. This is mine, this is my body, this is my family, these are my kids, this is my possession, this is my wealth. We have unlimited attachments. I mean, we could in fact start with attachment. Okay, write down a quick exercise. Write down your top 5 attachments. I'm not going to ask you for answers, so you don't have to, just be candid. I'm just trying to do through the story because I meant for analysis and self-reflection. So I'm just going to help for that. We can just write down what are my top 5 attachments. It could be my mother. It could be my bank balance. It could be the type of work, anything that you think of. So how do you understand what are my attachments? The things that you think about the most. The thing that you think about the most represents your attachments. If you are not unsure how to figure out attachments, that is what attachment is. The things that you think about the most in your dreams refers to your attachments. And the first thing that you remember when you're fearful the most, that is your attachment. So write down 5 things. Again, you can be as candid. I'm not going to ask for any answer from anyone. But here we are coming to the end of Puranjana's life. So what happens at the end of the life for such an attached person is what we're going to discuss today. Everyone could do that? और 5 बहुत ज़्यादा अटैचमेंट हो गए। वो जी मेरे 5 नहीं है, सिर्फ मेरे 2 अटैचमेंट हैं, मैं और मेरा। English you say I and mine. So anyways, I know we don't often do self-reflection the way our life is designed, but you can think about it and let's move forward. So again, just to recap what's happening here. So Puranjana representing us, Queen representing our material intelligence, Kingdom representing this body. Now the Puranjana have grown old as part of the story. And what's going to happen to him old age, how he would be attacked by Jara, old age, that is Kalyavan, and Bhaya, the Yavana kingdom, the Yavana king, fear, and how his city would be plundered. And when the city would be plundered, which means the body would be made dysfunctional because of the old age, he'll become extremely fearful. The family members who he tried to serve all his life would disown him, would not come to his help, and that all that. But that story will continue. So today we're gonna do something different here. As I said in the beginning, we're gonna read through the verses and I'm gonna give lessons, what's happening in the story. And what all of you have to do, I'll give a time. All of you have to, because if I speak, that will not make much sense. You just hear it and pass it off. Then you have to see how you can prepare yourself, what counteraction you can propose to not end up like Puranjana. What can you do today so we can prepare ourselves not to end up like Puranjana? So that is something which all of us have to think here, okay? So let's begin with the first verse. Nardvacha Sainika Bhayanamno Ye
Sainika Bhayanamno Ye
Varishman Tishtakarinaha
Varishman Tishtakarinah
Prajavara Kala Kanyabhyam
Pratvaraganyam
Vichiruravinim Imam
Viduradima
Sainika Bhayanamno Ye
Sainika Bhayanamno Ye
Varishman Tishtakarinaha
Varishman Tishtakarinah
प्रजवार काल कन्याभ्याम विचिरोरवनिमा सैनिका भयनाम्नो ये
Sainika Bhayanamno Ye
दुष्टकारिणा
Varishman Tishtakarinah
प्रजवार काल कन्याभ्याम विचिरोरवनिमा. Before we get into the translation, just while reciting the shloka, that's the reason I recited it thrice. I just want to reconfirm. So a thought came to my mind, and I'll just float the thought. Let's see if it makes sense or not. So here also it is Kalakanya who acts as a destruction for Puranjana. And I'm just thinking, why destruction is generally represented by a feminine energy? I'm not saying you're destructive. For example, a tornado, you've seen in America names Rita, Smita, something like that, tornado. What could be the philosophical angle of that? Why feminine energy? I mean, destruction could have been by some other, but Kala Kanya. Here this was mentioned. Prajawar, old age, Kala Kanya Bhyam, Vicharo Ravanimam. How many of you agree this is how generally names we see? India also? So don't get into the worldly consciousness, that's not medication here. Why it is? What does it refers to? When I was reading it, one verse was ringing in my head. That's the reason I thought I'll float the idea. I'm just floating the idea. Because it is there, it exists. Why destruction is always named after feminine energy? Thought.
Not only destruction, but anything is except for Krishna is feminine only. And generally, the feminine energy in itself is a very strong energy, which, if challenged in a proper way, can be an inspiration. If it not proper challenged in a proper way, can be
Which is
destruction.
true. I agreed upon it. But again, I'm saying, why names all forms of destruction after a female, feminine energy in that way? I'm saying. So the thought when I was reading that came to my mind, which I not thought before, which is stuck right now, and that's why started thinking, all the storms, tornado, and whatnot. So in the seventh chapter, verses 4 and 5, fourth verse Krishna says, "Bhumi Rapan Alovayu," and the fifth was Aparyam Vitastonyam. Hey Arjuna, there is another energy which is superior. That is Jiva Bhuta Mahabhav. That is Jivatma. However, that Jivatma has become entangled with the inferior energy. And where he has forgotten his real constitution. That's not the verse exactly. I'm just clubbing the Mame Vansu Jiva Loka, Jivutta Sanatana. Those who understand this, I'm clubbing all those verses. The point is the inferior energy has actually overtaken the superior energy, Jivatma. Matter have entangled the spirit and have destroyed the real nature of the spirit. So in that way, I was thinking, just like the feminine is mentioned, which is Prakriti, which is comparatively inferior energy. So probably the one reason why it is mentioned in that way is to again remind us the matter which is inferior in energy, don't let that overcome our consciousness. Otherwise, the destruction. So because there are some hints are given always. Like Krishna says, Maya Vastu Jiva Loka, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Mana, Shashnani, Indriyani, Prakriti, Sthani, Karshati. Unnecessary he is struggling in this material creation because of these things. But that was just a random thought. Maybe that's the reason why it is mentioned with the feminine name, just to indicate the superior energy living entity has been caught up by the inferior energy. Don't let the matter overrule your consciousness. All right, let's begin with the translation. The great Siddhartha continued, my dear King Prachani Vaishya, afterward the king of the Yavanas, whose name is fear itself, as well as Prajwar, Kalkandi, and his soldiers began to travel all over the world. Text number 2. Once the dangerous soldiers attacked the city of Purañjana with great force. Although the city was full of paraphernalia for sense gratification, it was being protected by the old serpent. So yes, he has become old. Therefore, now he has been attacked by old serpent, old age. Text number 3. Gradually, Kalakanya, with the help of dangerous soldiers, attacked all the inhabitants of Puranjana's city and thus rendered them useless for all purposes. Which means when we grow old, our senses become useless. Can't function properly, can't see properly, can't eat properly. Knowledge acquiring senses, working senses, all begins to fade. That's the idea here. So, the first lesson, if you can write down. So what this is indicating is the body is a city which is under siege. And what Prabhupada through the purport was trying to talk about, prepare before it falls. So Puranjana's body came under attack by a Kalakanya, old age, the Yavanas, a disease and death, and a Prajavar, which means fever, that is refers to the at the moment of quitting the body, high temperature. So Prabhupada says in the purport here, the more one enjoys sex during youth, the more he suffers in old age. Particularly in text 3 purport. Let's read the first few lines. Prabhupada highlights here. Second line. Therefore, Vedic training dictates that when a man is in his boyhood, he should be trained in the process of brahmacharya. He should be completely engaged in the service of the Lord and should not in any way associate with women. When the boy becomes a young man, he marries between the ages of 20 and 25. When he's married at the right age, he can immediately beget strong, healthy sons. Now, female descendants are increasing because young men are very weak sexually. A male child will be born if the husband is sexually stronger than the wife, but if the female is stronger, a female child will be born. This is also part of uh, uh, Kama Sutra. These are the things. So Kama Sutra, the text, Vedic text, just an FI. It's not something that I have read through. So Kama Sutra, I came across it first time in America. There it was very famous. So it looked like as if it is talking about only about the process of union. No, it's not about that. Uh, when I returned back to India, when I was going through Prabhupada purpose, and then I realized, in fact, it's a whole Vedic text. Just like astrology, there are so many things in astrology. Only 5% of that talks about future telling. 95% talks about other aspects. So primarily, the right time, the right muhurta is a major objective of astrology. Similarly, for the text called Kama Sutra, it's this 5% or less than 5% of the text about how to have a union, but rest of the thing is about how to bring a proper progeny. It's a whole science of the Garbhadan Samskar or not Garbhadan Samskar. The third kind of we read about what exactly happens in the 9 months. It talks about how you can predetermine what progeny you can have. In fact, it talks about the science of how you can have a male child, how you can have a female child. A certain text I had read about it, about that. If the mother feels heavier, during when she's pregnant, so this is where the male child is. So those kind of details are mentioned, scientific details. Uh, I mean, we don't have much of the text. There was only a part of it which was available, which I read about it. Um it could be discussed or shared with the doctors to see how true it is. Anyways, Prabhupada is just hinting on that. So these are not something which is just said like this. There's science behind it. Anyways, that's not our objective discussion. So coming to the point, the body, the first lesson, the body is a city under seas. Prepare before it falls. So what can we do to prepare ourselves? The body anyway is going to fall away. Prepare before it falls is the whole subject matter of today's discussion. The one other aspect Prabhupada mentions, youthful life is meant for brahmacharya training. And those who do not engage too much in the act of union, then they remain healthy all through. And that is one aspect of it, preparing. Uh, so, how to remain strong? So, Prabhupada will make a point. Just as a wise king will fortify the kingdom before the attack, what is the point of trying to fortify the kingdom after the attack? If the gate has fallen, what can you really do about it? So, what will the any wise king will do? He will fortify the gates of the kingdom before the attack. Similarly, Prabhupada through his purpose indicates a wise person fortifies his consciousness with the Nam Japa and Seva before the senses become too weak to engage in Krishna conscious activities. Therefore, Prabhupada really used to emphasize the Krishna consciousness should be taken at young age. What is the point in the old age? Your senses cannot be engaged in the service of the Lord. All right. Text number 4. When Kalakanya daughter time attacked the body, the dangerous soldiers of the king of the Yavanas entered the city through different gates. And then they began to give severe trouble to all the citizens. So what does this allegory means here? The 9 gates, lesson number 2. The 9 gates become entry point for suffering. So right now, through this 9 gates, we are trying to enjoy the material world. We have not seen old age, but here old age has been described. The same 9 gates will become the cause of suffering. So 9 gates, eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth, and all those. So we spent our life trying to enjoy through this, but in the old age, these 9 gates itself becomes a great cause of distress and suffering. So rather than wasting our youth or youthful years in trying to engage these 9 gates in sense gratification, the whole idea is preparation. So we should engage these 9 gates as much as we can in the service of the Lord. Eyes should be engaged in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord. Ears should be engaged in hearing about the Lord. The mouth should be engaged in eating Krishna Prasadam or chanting the names of the Lord. So this is whole chapter. Parallelly, we're going to talk about preparation for death. So otherwise, 9 gates will become the cause of great suffering. Don't postpone. The same gates that bring pleasure will soon bring only pain. Do not try to postpone. Now, why Prabhupada will emphasize do not try to postpone? The reason is Prabhupada defines old age very interestingly. Prabhupada says old age doesn't mean your hairs have grown white, your teeth have become loosened. Old age means the time before death. So old age means time before death. If anyone dies tomorrow, which means a day before he was old. That's how Sanskrit works there. So don't postpone. We don't know when will be our final time. Okay, so that's the idea from text number 4. Text number 5. So 2 things. The 9 gates become the first. The body is a city and the seas. Prepare before it falls. Second, the 9 gates become entry points for suffering. Text number 5. When the city was thus endangered by the soldiers and Kalkanya, King Puranjana, being overly absorbed in affection for his family, was placed in difficulty by the attack of Yamanraj and Kalakanya. Classic example is to explain what has been described here is Ajamil. I believe everyone is aware of Ajamil's story. So when he was faced with this moment of death, he was so disturbed. Anyone remembers what was going on in his mind when he was faced with the moment of death? Out of fear, he called out. Whom did he call out? Not son. नारायण तो तुम ऐसे बोल रहे हो नारायण वो तो नाम था बोलो ना young son. He called us. So I said, you want to figure out what is your attachment to? When you sleep in the night, the kind of dreams you get about, you're attached to. When you're fearful, the first person, the first thing that you shall take shelter of, these are your attachments like that, our attachments. So he was so fearful, he called out for Narayan, called out for the young son. And not only that, the another fear, the great grief, which each and every one of us would have if we don't prepare from now on, is the worry, मेरे बाद मेरे परिवार का पालन पोषण कौन करेगा? And it is not only the father thinking like that, even the mother thinks, because they both are protector. It's not only the father is a protector, mother is a protector in her capacity, father is protector in his capacity. So, because as we grow, we will have dependence. Another major grief or worry is mere father. Remember that famous story of Narad Muni and that Brahmin? Narad Muni will again come back to Brahman and remind him, go back to God, come back with me. No, 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 no. अभी मैं नौजवान हूँ, मेरी शादी होने शादी के बाद आ जाओ. अभी मेरे बच्चे बड़े हो रहे तो बच्चे अभी आ जाओ. नहीं नहीं बच्चों के बच्चे उनको कौन देखभाल करेगा? You see, the theme was this. He was worried about मैं नहीं तो मेरे परिवार की रक्षा कौन करे? That is what is happening in text number 5. When the king was thus endangered by the soldiers and Kalakanya, King Puranjana, being overly absorbed in affection for his family, was placed in difficulty by the attack of Yamanraj and Kalakanya. Overly absorbed in affection. So he became worried. How will I take care of them? These are facts of life. Every condition still goes through with it. How many of you acknowledge this? How many of you have seen your grandparents, in case, have seen they departing? These are facts or no? These are facts of life. So my question to all of us now here is, as we're talking about the counteraction, what should we do preparing ourselves? What would be the counteraction we should start from today? A wise king fortifies a kingdom before the attack. This is the lesson. This is an action item for us. So wise king have to fortify the kingdom before the attack. So what can we do to fortify now? To prevent ourselves from this over attachment. If you have a family, attachment is but obvious. You can't avoid it. So is it something if you can't avoid it, so you can't avoid this also? What is the solution for it? Any thoughts? Yes, the son is going to answer. But that's the only experience you have. Attachment to parents. Bolo.
It is very difficult to have attachment, like lose the attachment from our material things. But
Not material thing. Tell your parents.
yeah, parents.
Be very practical. Material thing. Don't philosophize so much.
So what we can do, what is in our hand is to just try to develop taste in Krishna consciousness. That is the only hope.
Yeah, only hope and all that is okay. The matter of fact is, what is the solution? The solution is, unless we cultivate our attachment to Krishna, unless that attraction develops, nothing going to happen, nothing going to change. Our kingdom cannot get fortified unless we become strong. To become strong in that, we have to practice strongly today. We have to be serious in our practice. So there is no other alternative. But please understand, I know some of you might feel a little, oh, really, I would lose attachment for my family members. No, it's not about that losing attachment. In fact, you'll serve them far better than you're serving now. We have discussed this concept of attachment in the 13th chapter in Gita in relation to soul and Paramatma. So what we call as attachment, the material attachment, the definition of material attachment is our concern is not for the well-being of that person. Our concern is to protect our interest in that attachment. And I gave an example of a pampered care versus detached care. Why Paramatma does not stop you from doing wrong thing? follows a detached care. And while we do a pampered care, what is pampered care? Even if the person is doing wrong, we will not correct the person thinking that if I tell him, then he might leave me. That becomes pampered care. But what is a detached care? Like Krishna in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, second and third word, called him Klebhiyam and Aryan. Even if you feel bad, it doesn't matter. But what is right have to be told to you. That is detached care. So when we talk about attachment, when we are attached, it's actually a selfish objective. It is not because of love. It's largely because of selfish agenda. So when we cultivate Krishna consciousness, then our attachment becomes natural and genuine. The agenda is not I. The agenda is to serve them. For example, I'll just give an example of our Abhishek Prabhu. There was one devotee here, very sincere devotee, who had to go back to his hometown because his mother had developed cancer. He didn't want to go. He wanted to join Brahmachari ashram, very pakka guy and everything. But because suddenly mother developed cancer, he only had a sister. Father had already passed away in COVID time. So he had no other option. So he had to talk with me. We said, okay, you go back and take care of your mother. His mother just passed away finally, just 2 or 3 days ago. And what a sincere service he did to his mother. The moment his mother passed away, he was in daily touch with me, what was going on. The moment his mother passed away, he called me up. He was crying, he was sobbing. That pain would naturally be there. Mother is mother, no doubt about it. So I was telling him, I said, Abhishek Prabhu, what's it? Amal Hari? Amal Bhakt is initiated name now. So, anyways, Abhishek for me. So I was telling him, I said, Prabhu, I'm just so proud of you. You have done such a wonderful service to your mother, which I don't think so anyone would have done it. Literally, I believe he got fired from his job or something, because so much care was needed for the mother, he couldn't do his job also. His job is in Pune. And what he went for 1 or 2 months, he went last year. Last year of this time only he went. Sometime before that, last year only, na? Or year, 2 year before. 2 साल हो गए ना उसको? Yeah, 2 साल हो गए उसको. What he went for 2, 3 months have become 2 years now. Chemotherapy happens, what not happen, खींचते खिंचाते, cancer में कैसे ऊपर नीचे चीजें होती हैं करके. And 15 days or 2 weeks before, when you had put me in call around 2 weeks before, so that time doctor said we cannot do anything. We have to discharge the patient. She is a dead body for us. We can't. So then this boy, then again we had discussion. He brought the mother to hospice, Vrindavan hospice. So his mother left the body just before, a day before Gaur Purnima, which is Monday, in Vrindavan. And that's the day when we had final rites for His Holiness Badrinaran Maharaj. So many senior Vaishnavas were there. So much chanting of the holy names was happening. It was just a day before Gaur Purnima. So much festivals, and there was such a sound vibration of holy names going around. Right next to Krishna Balan Temple, hospice is just behind the corner. And the mother passed away somewhere around, I believe, in the afternoon when he had called me up. So I said, there could not be anything better for her. I know you are grief stricken, but I can just tell you I'm so proud and happy of you, what you have done, the kind of service you have rendered. Nobody could have rendered. Imagine a person working in IT and everything else without Krishna consciousness, who would have given up his, risk of his job and family. Before marriage, everyone says like this. But the way the conditioned world functions, 100% he gave attention to her. And he brought her to Vrindavan in a perfect environment, in front of the devotees, deities, and everything. She passed away. So now, is there an attachment or not? But this is real attachment where there is no selfish agenda. There is nothing that mother could have done to him for the last 2 years. In fact, he had to take care of her, every minute details of her, spend so much money. Everything has to literally put everything at risk, whatever he wanted in his life to do. 2 years ago, he wanted to move into ashram. But suddenly, change of turn of events happened, so we had to put on hold. But he still continues his devotional practice, everything. What a wonderful example. This is real attachment. Otherwise, the attachment which has been addressed here is about our selfish agenda. And you'll see what will happen. Right now, the king is worried about his family members. Few years down the line, you'll see how the family members will react to him when they see that this person is no use. That is what the material attachment. So when we cultivate our attachment to Krishna, to the Lord, actually we become truly attached to family members and to the society. Srila Prabhupada, the 70-year-old man, if he can travel all around the world, not that he enjoyed traveling, not that he went for sightseeing, just to help all of us, we had no relation connection to him. It just shows how Krishna consciousness actually makes you loving towards every living entity. I mean, even at this age, we feel tired and exhausted after some travel. Non-stop travel for what purpose? Because he really cared. He was really attached, but not attached to the body, attached to the Lord. And that attachment brought about the transformation. Okay, text number 6. So we discussed about third thing we discussed about attachment. When King Purañjana was embraced by Kalakanya. So remember from the previous chapter? So the daughter of Yavana, right? Daughter of Yavana? Yes, Kalakanya. She's a single lady. And she's the one lady in this creation, nobody wants to get married to her. Remember? And then finally she approached the king of Yavana, Jara. Sorry, Bhaya, this is Jara. Bhaya, I forgot his name. And he also said, Mataji, aap Mataji achi ho. Let's maintain a distance. So now finally the king has been embraced by Kalakanya. He gradually lost all his beauty, having been too much addicted to sex. He became very poor in intelligence and lost all his opulence. So, two things: overindulgence in such kind of activity which is meant only for the purpose of procreation, overindulgence in that, person's ability to think, understand reduces considerably. वो ठुस बुद्धि बुद्धि का हो जाता है, समझ ही नहीं आता. Where there is an opportunity to contemplate and reflect then. And he lost all his opulence. Being bereft of all opulent possessions, he was conquered forcibly by the Gandharvas and Yavanas. Text number 7. Somebody please read the translation. We can have the mic. Where's the mic? Padi jaldi. Text 7.
When a King Puranjan, translation. King Purajan then saw that everything in his town was scattered and that his sons, grandsons, servants, and ministers were all gradually opposing him. He also noted that his wife was becoming old and indifferent.
So everything was scattered. And his sons, grandsons, servants, and see, the ministers are all gradually opposing him. He also noted his wife was becoming cold and indifferent. 2 verse prior, we saw that, go just 2 verse prior, text number 5 again, being overly absorbed in affection. So what we discussed that time, the person is worried about who will protect them, who will take care of them. And now 2 verse later on, we see that the same people who they were worried about, or who he was worried about, have become indifferent. This is the outcome of material attachment, material relationship. So lesson number 4. Family members turn hostile. Material attachments brings only grief. When the body becomes old and invalid, even sons, grandsons, servants, ministers were all gradually opposing him. The wife becomes cold and indifferent. Why? Because the relationship in this world is transactional. Prabhupada will often use this word. Relationship in this world is transactional, based on what you can provide. That is the meaning of transactional. So, what is a practical application? Love them, serve them, but important thing, but don't depend on them for emotional security. Remember the story of an old man traveling in a train, 75-year-old man, and there's a TC comes ticket collector, and he finds a wallet in the train, and he picks the wallet and he asks, "Kiska hai ye?" And the old man raises his hand. He says, "It's mine." So the ticket collector asks, "Okay, tell me, what is the proof that this wallet belongs to you?" He said, "You can go through all the pockets in my wallet. You will not find even a single penny. In this wallet, there's only one thing, the photo of Krishna." Remember this story? No? We have, I've shared many places. So, and he opened the ticket collector, opened the wallet, and he saw, yeah, really, it's a photo of Krishna, and the wallet was very torn out. So he returned the wallet back to the old man, but he was curious. Wallet is supposed to have money, and the wallet is not supposed to be empty, and the wallet only has one thing, the photo of Krishna. So the ticket collector asked him, what is this? The wallet without money? And there's a photo of Krishna, what's going on? So he said this wallet was given to him when he was a young boy, when the father started giving him his pocket money. So he used to keep pocket money in this wallet. So that time, wallet have this photo section or something where you can put some photo, I believe. They said when I got this wallet, the very first photo I kept here of my parents. I was somewhere around 10, 11 years. When I became teenager, somewhere around 15, 16, then I replaced a photo of parents with my photo. Then I replaced a photo of parents with my photo. Then I went into college. I had a girlfriend. Then I took out my photo and put photo of my girlfriend. Then I got a job. Then I got married. Replace a photo of girlfriend with, which has to be there obvious now, the wife. you know, so replace it with wife. Life went on. Then I got a child. I got a son. Then I took out the photo of my wife and replaced with the photo of my son. And that photo had stayed in this wallet for years and decades together. 6 months ago, my wife died. And a week before, my only son, who I so loved and cared all my life, whose photo was in my wallet until a week ago, for decades together, kicked me out of my own house. I'm an old man without any money, without any security. I'm just wandering from one place to another, find meaning in life or find shelter. So while going from one station to another, on the platform, I saw the photo of Krishna. And then I was reminded of and one good saying of my grandfather, everything will fade away, everything will go away. There's only one person who will always stay beside you. That is Krishna. And that remembrance of my what grandfather had told me gave me so much courage and strength. I picked up the photo which was lying on the platform and kept it in my wallet, understanding he is the only true friend. A beautiful story sums up the whole discussion of 13th chapter of Gita. The focus of 13th chapter is the super soul, understanding super soul. कहते हैं क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञ, understanding क्षेत्रज्ञ, ज्ञानं ज्ञानम पुरुष प्रकृति. Okay, so this sums up this point here. So family members turn hostile, attachment brings only grief. So idea is love them, serve them, but do not depend on them for emotional security. The only relationship that never disappoints is with Krishna, who is described as Sakyam, Suhridam, always well-wisher, just like a father or mother, like this. Okay, text number 8. Translation.
When King Purajan saw that all his family members, relatives, followers, servants, secretaries, and everyone else had turned against him, he certainly became very anxious, but he could not counteract the situation because he was thoroughly overwhelmed by Kanya.
Okay, so one more thing Prabhupada mentioned in the purport is about Karpanya versus Brahmana. Karpanya means miser. Text number 7 purport in the middle of the paragraph. This is all due to one being a Karpana. You know, this word Kripana used in the sixth verse is in opposition to the word Brahmana. In the human form of life, one should become a Brahman, which means that one should understand the constitutional position of the absolute truth, Brahman, and then engage in his service as a Vaishnava. So, So what is Kripana? The point where I started it, just a line before that. Prabhupada writes, a man keeps a family for enjoyment. Similarly, family members demand enjoyment from the head of the family. When they do not receive sufficient money from him, they grow disinterested and ignore his commands or desires. So, similarly, we receive the precious human form, but we waste it on bodily concerns instead of Brahma Jigyasa. So, how to become a Brahmana? Prabhupada writes here, one should understand the constitutional position of the absolute truth, which means by cultivating Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada started this ISKCON movement is to train us as Brahmanas, where Brahma Jigyasa is the foremost concern of our life. All right. So text number 8, King Purañjana, when he saw that all his family members had turned against him, he became very anxious. This is also can be summed up with that story of a king and 5 queens. Remember? Another very famous story. The king had 5 queens. Most of you would have heard it, or may not remember. Yeah, Gita Wisdom, we used to talk about the story in reincarnation session. I used to talk about it. Very interesting story. So that's the idea. And the one wife that remains in the end is Paramatma, or Atma in that way. Text number 8. Text number 9. Please read.
The objects of the enjoyment becomes still by the influence of the Kalkanya. Due to the continuance of his lusty desires, King Punanjana becomes very poor in everything. Thus he did not understand the aim of life. He was still very affectionate towards his wife and children.
Upwards.
This is exactly the position of the present civilization. Everyone is engaged in maintaining the body, home, and the family. Consequently, everyone becomes confused at the end of life, not knowing what spiritual life and the goal of human life are. In a civilization of the sense gratification, there cannot be spiritual life because a person thinks only of this life. Although the next life is the effect, no information is given about it.
Yeah. So this verse highlights the dangers of material attachment, I and mind. At the end of the day, it will be just a failure. I remember back in America in those days, I love green spaces. So every Saturday, Sunday, I would find some place, either go for morning walk or just get away from there. And the beauty is you'll find a lot of green spaces there. Columbus had a couple of rivers, and around that there were many walking trails like that. So one day, uh, I would take a car and go somewhere, look in the Google Maps, some green space. So one day I found one green space, and I was going on a walking trail. And it started with the right next to the river, and then there was nobody around. And suddenly that walking trail entered into a very high posh society neighborhood. Beautiful homes, big homes with the big gardens and whatnot. And there's a walking trail just going beside their homes. And interesting thing is nobody has kind of any, what do you call as fences there. वो पता नहीं चलता किसका एरिया क्या है करके. I remember when I was walking through that, when I saw first, I felt, wow, my definition of perfect life before coming to Krishna consciousness was you should have a nice big house with a big garden next to the river. मेरे लिए जन्नत था. So whenever I used to see those big wooden houses and there is some nice trees on the river, मुझे लगता था बस मुझे जीवन में और कुछ नहीं चाहिए, यहीं settle हो जाता. So I remember, see, this is my attachment. This was a big attachment. So when I was walking, when I saw those things, I was thinking, wow, what a perfect life these people must be living. First few houses, nobody. Next few houses, I saw some old people sitting by themselves, nobody around them. And then when I walked through that, I realized, I said, why these people are all alone here? Because their family members left them long ago. Because there in the Western culture, no kids stays with their parents. So they got this big, beautiful homes, beautiful neighborhood, river just right next to their door. These old people are just sitting by themselves. And these people don't even talk to each other much. Like हमारे में तो होता है ना आस पड़ोस के लोग बहुत बात करते हैं. Completely impersonal. So this is the situation. Even if you have wealth, it's not going to help. And therefore, in the end, can you imagine you have all the wealth, but there is nobody who can actually who genuinely cares for you? So you may have all the wealth. So you think I have all the wealth, I can hire. But that hired person cannot serve you. For example, I was just in the hospital, I was giving an example also. These nurses, although I was treated as a guest kind of a thing, these nurses, still they treat you very harshly. And I remember my sister, she was there for the 1.5 day, literally with me for the other 1.5 day. How much concerned she was about every small aspect. And nurse आती थी हाथ उठाती थी पता नहीं जैसे मशीनों को ही कभी कोई इंजेक्शन यहाँ घुसा दिया वहाँ को फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता था. So I mean, life would be to that's the point. So what we need to do, so these are dangers of attachment. We need to cultivate attachment, which means from now, from daily practice. Okay, continue. Next verse, text number 10.
The city of King Puranjana was overcome by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers. And although the king had no desire to leave the city, he was circumstantially forced to do so, for it was smashed by Kalkanya.
So next lesson. Death does not wait. Fear, bhaya, comes uninvited. Although King Puranjana was engaged in thinking of his wife and children, death did not wait for him. The Yavanraj, death called bhaya, is called bhaya. The Yavanraj, death is called bhaya. Why? Because he is the ultimate God realization of the atheist. What a beautiful point Prabhupada writes. So Yavanraj, death is called Bhaya. Why death is called Bhaya? Because he is the ultimate God realization of the atheist. That is what they face. So live each day as if it could be your last. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says. Not with morbid anxiety, but with urgency. Complete your spiritual practice each day. Don't carry forward a backlog of japa or seva. Particularly when you're traveling, finish your 16 rounds, because if it somehow happens to be the last day, तो आगे जाके ये नहीं बोलोगे यार मेरे 8 माला रह गए तो माफ करो. I've had that experience. So particularly, so back in those days, अभी तो थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे हो गया है. In America, we would not step out. Even if we have to travel, let's say we have to go to Chicago, 4 o'clock in the morning, you have to leave. We'll chant our rounds. That was a culture that time. We'll chant our rounds and then step out. Reason? We never know. If in case accident happens, then, what will say, sorry, our japa is remaining. Then the answer will be, okay, go back, finish your japa and then come back, which will take a next body. So we had that idea that time. So that's the point here. Okay, let's move forward. Text number 11.
Under the circumstances, the elder brother of Yaman Raja, known as the Prajvara, set fire to the city to please his younger brother, whose other name is fear itself.
Purport. According to the Vedic system, what does it mean? A dead body is set on fire. But before death, there is another fire, Agni, of fever, which is called Prajwar or Vishnu Jwar. Medical science verifies that once temperature reaches 207 degrees, a man immediately dies. This Prajwar or high fever at the last stage of life places the living entity in the midst of a blazing fire. Interesting things, huh? Gauranga. Text number 12. Continue.
When the city was set ablaze, all the citizens and servants of the king, as well as all family members, son, grandson, wife, and other relatives, were within the fire. King Puranjana was become very unhappy.
Yeah. Papa writes, when the body is attacked by Vishnu Jwara, the fiery condition becomes so acute that sometimes one remains in a coma. This means that the body is in such severe pain that one becomes unconscious and cannot feel the miseries taking place within the body. Okay, text number 13. So this chapter can be read in conjunction with chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. Because chapter 8 is about death. And the idea is Antakale Chamameva. So those who still are not fearful of death, they can experience death through this chapter. You can map it like that in your, when you do your course ahead. Text number 13.
The city's superintendent of police, the serpent, saw that the citizens were being attacked by Kalakanya, and he became very aggrieved to see his own residence set ablaze after being attacked by the Yavanas.
Very interesting, huh? The serpent, the city superintendent of police. So what happens generally? So who runs first? Police are supposed to protect, but they runs first. So similarly, here the serpent will run away first. Next translation, read it.
As a serpent living within the cavity of a tree wishes to leave when there is a forest fire, so the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat.
So what is this serpent refers to? Prabhupada writes in text number 13, purport. This subtle body has been figuratively described as a serpent. or city's police superintendent. When there is fire everywhere, the police superintendent cannot escape either. When there is security and an absence of fire in the city, the police can impose his authority. When there is an all-out attack on the city, he is rendered useless. As the live air was ready to leave the gross body, the subtle body also began to experience pain. Text number 15.
The limbs of the serpent's body were slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers, who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in this attempt, he began to
So
cry
what it
loud.
means, proper describes what happened in the last stages of life. The different caves of the body are choked by the effects of disease. So we spend our youth trying to enjoy life through these 9 gates. Similarly, those 9 gates becomes useless, cause of disease, which are caused by an imbalance of bile, mucus, and air. Thus, the living entity cannot clearly express the difficulties, and surrounding relatives hear the sound grrr, grrr, from a dying man. This is the proper did once in a class. In his Mukundmala Sutra, King Kulashekar states, this is one of the very famous quoted verse by Prabhupada. Krishna Dvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam Adhyeva Me Vishato Manasaraja Hamsaha Prana Prayana Samaye Kapavitta Patpitahe Kanthavarudhan Vidusmaranam Kutaste. Shekhar is praying, let me remember the Lord when I'm healthy. Because if I'll be old, I will not have that physical and mental capacity to remember the Lord. Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjarantam. Translation. My dear Krishna, please help me die immediately so that the swan of my mind can be encircled by the stem of your lotus feet. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up, how will it be possible for me to think of you? Text number 16. 16 text.
King Puranjan then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, servants, and other associates, as well as his house, his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth.
Next, continue.
King Puranjan was overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mine. Because he was overly attached to his wife, he was already quite poverty-stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry.
Prabhupada is explaining this analogy. Text number 18, continue.
King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by thoughts of family maintenance.
Continue. So you see what happens with attachment. Text 19. Read, quick.
King Puranjana then began to think of his past dealings with his wife. He recalled that his wife would not take her dinner until he had finished his, that she would not take her bath until he had finished his, and that she was always very much attached to him, so much so that if he would sometimes become angry and chastises her, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior.
So he's remembering the good behavior and attachment of his wife to him. Text number 20. Continue.
King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs.
So what is king absorbed in thinking about? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tayate ante. So these verses gives an indication what's going to happen to Puranjana after he dies. He's going to take birth as a woman. Text number 19th, purport. Last few lines. If a husband and wife are very much attached to one another in Krishna consciousness, they will both benefit because Krishna is the center. Otherwise, if the husband is too much attached to his wife, he becomes a woman in his next life. The woman being overly attached to her husband becomes a man in her next life. Of course, it is an advantage for a woman to become a man, but it is not at all advantageous for the man to become a woman. So that's the secondary point, but the main point is Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavat. So you will become what you think of. So Papa writes in another purport, a politician who is inordinately attached to the land of his birth will certainly be born as a cockroach in the same land. Sorry, I just added the word cockroach. Papa didn't write cockroach. I just, to create that impact, I added the word cockroach. A woman only attached to her husband may become a man thinking of his wife become a woman. So how would we counteract this? What do you think you become? What you think you become? We had discussed in the 8th chapter also. What was that shloka? 8.56, 8.7, I believe. 6 and 7. Tasmad. Pull out. What is that verse? Huh? Tasma sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha. Right? Ma manusmara yudhyacha. Mai arpita manobadhir. Mam evasya. Mam evashyati asamshaya. Without a doubt, tasmas sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmaraha yudhyacha. The answer to this is this shloka. Tasmas sarveshu kaleshu, at all time. Mam dash yudhyacha. Perform your duty. But how perform your duty? Anusmara. By thinking of me. How thinking of me? Anu. As the predecessors have taught us the process of cultivation of thinking of the Lord. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. But only thinking will not help. Mai arpita manobuddhir. You should conduct yourself also according to my teachings. Because then you'll be able to think about, for example, let's say you go to a shop and you want to purchase something. Now your mother and father have trained you in a certain way. So when you go to the shop to purchase something, then you will immediately remember parents' instruction because they trained you in that way. So thinking becomes easy if you are trained. So therefore, my arpita manobuddhir is very important. See, remember we have discussed in the former and later takes the precedent. So tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. So you have to read the verse from bottom to top. So before you can think of Krishna, Maya Arpita Manubuddhir, our intelligence should be fixed on Krishna. Intelligence should be fixed on Krishna means we should read and hear Shastras very carefully and see how we can apply. So we're doing something, His Holiness Ramapaz Maharaj, Holiness Bhakti Tiswai Maharaj, they used to emphasize a lot on this. You're doing anything, before that you ask, what would my spiritual master say for it? Would he approve of it? Would he disagree of it? That's how my arpita manubuddhi mam evashyati asamshaya, without a doubt. So that's the idea. And Prabhupada have given us a system. Morning begins with thoughts of Krishna, Mangalati, Japa, and throughout the day when we are performing our activities, see if we can connect it to Krishna, see it as an offering to Krishna. And before sleep, have some Krishna Smaranam. All right, we'll make one last point and pause for you today. We read until text number 21, right? Text number 22.
Text 21 we have not
No,
read.
no, right, please read. Text number 21 translation.
Text 21. King Puranjana continued worrying. After I pass from this world, how will my sons and daughters who are now fully dependent on me live and continue their lives? Their position will be similar to that of passengers aboard a ship wrecked in the midst of an ocean.
22.
Text 22. Although King Puranjan should not have lamented over the fate of his wife and children, he nonetheless did so due to his miserly intelligence. In the meantime, Yavanraj, whose name was fear itself, immediately drew near to arrest him.
Next.
Text 23. When the Yavanas were taking King Puranjan away to their place, binding him like an animal, the king's followers became greatly aggrieved. While they lamented, they were forced to go along with him.
Prabhupada mentions the great signs in the purport. Read the first few lines.
When Yamraj and his assistants take a living entity away to the place of judgment, the life, air, and desires, being followers of the living entity, also go with him. This is confirmed in the Vedas. When the living entity is taken away or arrested by Yamraj, tam utkramantam. The life air also goes with him, prano nukramati, and when the life air is gone, pranam anukramanam, all the senses, sarve pranaha, also go along, anukramanti, anu, anutkramanti. When the living entity and the life air are gone, the lump of matter produced of five elements earth, water, air, fire, and ether is rejected and left behind. The living entity then goes to the court of judgment, and the Yamraj decides what kind of body he is going to get next. This process is known to modern scientists, unknown to modern scientists. Every living entity is responsible for his activities in this life, and after death, he is taken to the court of Yamraj, where it is decided what kind of body he will take next. Although the gross material body is left, the living entity and his desires as well as the resultant reactions of his past activities go on. It is Yamraj who decides what kind of body one gets next in accordance with one's past action.
Karmana Deva Netrena. So two more verses will cover our discussion for today. Text number 24. The serpent who had already been arrested by the soldiers of Yamanraj and was out of the city began to follow his master along with the others. As soon as they all left the city, it was immediately dismantled and smashed to dust. Who was the serpent? Huh? The subtle body. That was mentioned, right? So when the living entity is arrested, all his followers, namely the life, the senses, and subject, immediately leave the lump of matter. When the living entity and his companions leave, the body no longer works but turns into a basic material element. This is the life is all about. You know, when a city attacked by enemies is vacated by its inhabitants, the enemy immediately takes advantage of the city and bombards it to smash the whole thing to dust. Next paragraph. It is a foolish person who engages in improving the conditions of a city without caring for the citizens or inhabitants. Similarly, living entity who is not properly enlightened in spiritual knowledge simply takes care of the external body. And the last paragraph, human civilization devoid of Krishna consciousness is simply a civilization of lower animals. Sometimes such a civilization may study the dead body and consider the brain or the heart. However, no part of the body is important unless the spirit soul is present. What was it talking about doctors, huh? In a modern civilization of cows and asses, scientists try to search out some value in the brain or heart of a dead man. Text number 25.
When the king Purañjana was being dragged with great force by a powerful Yavana, out of his gross ignorance, he still could not remember his friend and well-wisher, the super soul.
All right. So two interesting things happens here. So second last lesson for today. The forgotten friend besides us. Despite being, the title is The Forgotten Friend Besides Us. Despite being dragged forcefully by the powerful Yavana, Puranjan could not remember his friend and well-wisher, the super soul. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada, the Supreme Lord is always a Suhridam. Despite all our offenses, the Lord will give us immediate relief if we simply surrender. So he is the closest companion. Ishvaraha Sarvabhutana Hirdeshu Arjuna Tishtati. We have to, what does it mean actually? I'll just give a one hint. We have to come to a situation or position where we can, whatever we do, we can have a direct consultation with him. That's the time we'll begin to have an experience of this friend close to us. Right now, most of the thing happens through mind or intelligence. Intelligence determines generally why we say mind, because we don't have an experience of intelligence. Mind ka to thoda experience hai, because thoughts we can understand, but intelligence you can't really understand unless we train ourselves like this. So everything happens generally whatever intelligence or thinks, or let's say mind. So how would you describe the process to, what can we do to start experiencing the closest friend to a super soul? The end result is we should be having a direct conversation with him where we can consult with him everything that we do. What do you think, my dear Lord? But at this stage, if you do it, it will be your intelligence woman. Will become, we are half crazy right now because of material world. Then people will say because of Krishna consciousness, that fellow become full mental. So not like that. So what would be the process of it? Sadhu Sangha, okay. What is the process? purification. What else? Sadhu Sangha, purification. His Holiness Gaurav Maharaj used to emphasize a lot on this point. And he used to say, Paramatma comes out as Chaitya Guru. First, begin to take consultation or guidance from a living Guru. And once you have trained yourself in that way, that will purify. And then you can begin to have a conversation. This is the process. Before we can go inward, we have to establish ourselves in an outward relationship. So, Chaitya Guru, the manifestation of Paramatma. Therefore, there is a need for living Guru. Without, you getting this point? So, Ritvix, without living Guru, you cannot have that. That is a process. And the process of purification, again, tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena. So that's a process. That's all this thing. So first ask, take consultation. When we are trained up in that, then we will be, someday in future, we'll be able to do that. And the last verse for today, text number 26. That most unkind king Purañjana had killed many animals in various sacrifices. Now taking advantage of this opportunity, all these animals began to pierce him with their horns. It was though we were being cut to pieces by axes. Lesson number 9, karma of animal killing returns at death. The sacrificial animals Purañjana had killed began to pierce him with their horns at death. The word Ma'amsha itself indicates Ma'amsha. Those whom we kill will be given an opportunity to kill us. Actually, I'll just take 2 more verses. Purañjana will die. Let's kill Purañjana today. Okay? All right. Due to his contaminated association with woman, a living entity like King Purañjana eternally suffers all the material existence and remains in the dark region of material life. Asurya, okay? Asura namate loka andhena tamsavrataha tam sipretabi gachanti eke chatma anojanaha. Bereft of all remembrance for many, many years. So what so a girl associating with a gold digger is more dangerous than she associating with a man. We just made it up. I'm quoting with the Shama Vallavi. I don't know about it. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's the point. And the last text for today. हम पुरंजन को मृत्युशाला तक लेके जाते हैं. Text number 28. King Puranjan gave up his body while remembering his wife. And consequently, in his next life, he became a very beautiful and well-situated woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king. So we already discussed that you will become what you think of. So to conclude with, the only real solution is Krishna consciousness. Harim vinana mritim taranti. One cannot conquer death without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, Prabhupada described ISKCON movement as the greatest welfare activity because it gives information about the kingdom of God. To conclude with, we should make spiritual practice non-negotiable, not an option. Associate with devotees who remind us of these truths. Serve the mission of spreading this knowledge. It purifies both giver and receiver. 18th chapter, last instructions of Krishna, he says. Concluding words. Narmani told this story to King Prachani Parishad, who was absorbed in fruitive rituals. Thus, allegory shocked him into awakening. As I started with, we too are Puranjanas, soul dwelling in bodily cities, identifying with our roles as a male, female, husband, wife, and whatnot, where we forgot our real identity as the servants of the Lord. The question isn't whether the Yavana will come. They will. The question is, when they drag us away, will we remember our eternal friend? Concluding with Srila Prabhupada's words, a Krishna conscious person engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord eternally. Therefore, as long as he lives in the body, he is happy to engage in the loving service of the Lord. And when he gives up the body, he is also permanently situated in the service of the Lord. And Prabhupada called it as the perfection of human form of life. So when we meet tomorrow, we'll continue the second part of the story of King Purañjana, his new avatar. New birth, new avatar. So we'll see that tomorrow what happens to her. And then finally, after this much story, Barishit बोलेगा बस समझ गया मैं, बहुत हुआ, और मुझे डराओ मत, मैं आज से नाम जप शुरू करता हूँ. So that will be the conclusion of this episode like that. Okay. So thank you all for your kind attention. Jai Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And don't blame me if I went overtime. Blame the setup team because they did not keep the clock. So I have no idea what is the time. Okay. Okay. Anyone has any comments or anything? We'll not do Parasparam. It's already late, I believe. Yeah. So okay, we'll do the question tomorrow with new avatar. Jai Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.